welcome to Speaking of Business. I'm your host, Nancy Boyle. We've got two events coming up right after the first of the year we want to tell you about. So joining me on the first half of our show are Lola Kress with the U.S. Small Business Administration, Saldana with the St. John's Town Center, and Dara Williams with the Orange Park Mall. So welcome, ladies and gents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lola, let me start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do at SBA?
Sure. I'm the Public Affairs Specialist at the Small Business Administration, so I handle the media relations and special events, such as this one coming up here that we're going to be talking about today, and a lot of different other programs that the SBA handles.
Okay. Sal?
I'm the General Manager for St. John's Town Center, and I'm basically responsible for all the daily operations of the shopping center.
Sounds like you have a big job this time of year.
We do, yeah.
Well, good. Dara?
I'm the Director of Marketing and Business Development for Orange Park Mall, and so I handle all the marketing events, all the public relations, any activities that we plan like for the entire mall.
And you are a very busy lady this time of the year as well. Yes. So, well, Sal, wanted to sort of introduce the event, tell us a little bit about what's coming up, and then we'll let Dara, since it's going to be at your mall, talk a little bit about the logistics of it.
Sure. We are hosting a small business expo over at Orange Park Mall on Saturday, January 29th from 10 to 4. And we are hoping that we get a great participation from the community, as well as the participants, because we will have many participants and organizations involved, such as the franchisors, the lending institutions, contractors, anybody involved on what it is, or educating people on what it takes to open up a business, whether it be in our shopping center or anywhere else.
Okay, so Dara, it's going to be at your place.
That's right.
Okay, so.
Yeah, you know, we have opportunities at each of the Simon malls, whether it's St. John's Town Center, the Avenues, or Orange Park Mall. But we felt like Orange Park Mall was a really great location to kick it off because we are easy to access from Orange Park or Fleming Island or Middleburg, Green Cove, and even Jacksonville, because we're right there on the interstates. We're just a great starting point for what we hope will be an event that can go to each mall eventually.
Okay, so we have 3 Simon malls in Jacksonville, Avenues, Town Center, and Orange Park. And so eventually the goal is to hopefully have one of these events at each of the malls. Is that correct?
Sure, we hope so.
Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about the content of it? Exactly, kind of, I'm hearing about it, so I want to come. What am I going to see?
You'll see exhibitors and workshops, and I know Lola could probably tell you a little bit about the workshops as well. But there's just going to be a lot of opportunity for people who are entrepreneurs that are interested in starting up a business, or maybe they already have a startup business and they want to expand. Just a lot of opportunity to learn more about how to make your business successful, and or how to start it up with a new franchise. You know, ask lots of questions to people who can really help you get going.
So Lola, that's a good segue to you. Why don't you tell us about some of the workshops?
It is. We'll be holding workshops for new businesses as well as existing businesses, covering everything from how to become a tenant at one of the Simon malls to how to market your small business, and financing opportunities for either a startup or an existing small business. So between the workshops and the exhibitors, this is really, it's open to the public and free of charge, and it's really for everyone. Any entrepreneur, whether you're looking to become an entrepreneur or you're already a flourishing entrepreneur, it's suitable for all business people who are interested.
Okay, so we got workshops, a variety of topics, and then I'm assuming there's going to be like a little mini trade show with different organizations
There'll
having
be an area
literature.
in the mall set aside with the different exhibitors, from small business resource partners, anyone that could help a small business, from chambers to the SBDC to the Small Business Resource Network to lenders and franchisors. So people who happen to be shopping in the mall that day, or people who pre-register, are welcome to come and talk to them and gain a wealth of knowledge.
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think it's a great idea. But why is Simon Malls doing this?
Well, we're just wanting to be part of the community. And it is such an important thing that we are continuing to do things, whether it be a special event, whether it be something entertaining for the kids or entertaining for the family, or shopping, or providing, you know, working with the tenants on their sales that they provide the shoppers of our Jacksonville and Orange Park areas. But this is one more opportunity, one more service that we can actually provide towards our community. Because these days you never know who is really thinking about opening up a business, and the town center, Orange Park and the avenues, represent a big portion of our retail environment here in Jacksonville. And many people out there wonder, you know, what's it take to open up a business, and have no idea. You know, and those people that do have an idea would like it to take it to the next level, like Dara was indicating earlier. We are here to show people and to give people an idea that this is an opportunity that is here, and we're right here local, and we'd like to help.
Excellent. So Dara, will your tenants, the shops that are currently living in the Orange Park Mall, will they be participating in the event as well?
Yeah, we certainly hope and expect that a lot of our tenants, you know, that are franchise owners or that want to share information about their franchise, you know, will be there. And we also expect that the Avenues and St. John's Town Center will have some franchise groups there as well represented. So I think you'll see a good, you know, combination of all three malls and our tenants and the franchise opportunities that we have among our malls.
Well, now let me ask you this. If I decided I wanted to start a business and I had a product, and so I wanted to have my business in the mall, but I'm not big enough yet, how does a small business get started as a tenant in the mall? And maybe because of the indoor versus the outdoor, it might be a little bit different in St. John's versus Orange Park and Avenues. But how would a small retailer get started as being a tenant in the mall?
Right. Well, we have various types of leasing programs, whether it be short-term or long-term, and I think Sal can kind of speak to that a little bit better.
It is a lot easier than what people really feel like. But if someone has a concept or a product, as you were saying, and saying, how do I do it? The best thing to do is contact each mall, or one of the malls. In our case, we do have a representative that actually just takes care of all of our shopping centers and talks to those individuals about what their concept or use is. And from there, to answer your question, there are different programs at our properties. We have a short-term program and we have a long-term program. The short-term program literally provides this entrepreneur an opportunity to test the waters at our shopping centers, because as we all know, there's many businesses that work and some that don't. Right. So this, as a short-term program, which is one of the greatest things that a mall can actually offer, that you can come in, have your product, test the waters, and if it doesn't work, change it, or it's short-term. You're not obligated to a long lease.
Okay, so now are these the kinds of things that people will learn about at the event?
Yeah, absolutely. In particular, as Dara had indicated, you'll have a representative of every single mall or our three summit centers at Orange Park Mall, and each will provide an opportunity. You know, just to highlight different kinds of short-term, long-term. For example, the carts that are inside, we call them carts, little right in the middle of the mall. Those are short-term that people lease on a short-term basis, maybe for a month, 2 months, the whole year.
Okay.
And then they can expand once they build a business there. They can say, you know what, I've built enough business here, let me move on. Sal, Scott, or Kevin, or Don Port, who's our leasing representative, do you have any space available? And then we can segue into a bigger space and then move on from that point on.
Because I think that's information that most people don't realize. You know, that if you do have a product, and you want to get into the whole retail thing, even if you just want to distribute somebody else's product, that there are ways that you can get in there without having to get a 8,000 square foot facility. You know, I mean, people don't go from 0 to 60 that quickly.
And from the marketing standpoint, all Simon malls have a tremendous marketing program where we can give, you know, a lot of great benefits to offer free marketing. You know, we're on Facebook, and we're doing a lot of really exciting things right now with our, you know, website and our texting, and you know, all of the new exciting promotional things we can offer to our tenants as well. So, you know, even if you don't know a lot about marketing or you don't know a lot about leasing space, I mean, we really can help you through all of those aspects.
Well, it sounds like a really exciting event. Now, do people have to pre-register? I'll ask you that question.
Sure. Pre-registration is not required, but it's recommended, and just in the next couple of weeks we will have a registration site up at the Small Business Development Center website at sbdc.unf.edu, and also just to keep your eyes out and ears out, we'll have lots of advertisements. We'll have information on it on all of our websites. This is being sponsored by SCORE, the Small Business Development Center, SBA, and Simon Properties. So we're all working together to make this a really great event.
Well, it sounds like it's going to really be a terrific event. So lots of success. Thank you for joining us today. And you in the audience, don't go away. We got something else to tell you about, so we'll be right back. Bye now. If you'd like more information about today's show or you have a topic you'd like us to discuss, please write to Speaking of Business, care of SBDC, 12,000 Alumni Drive, Jacksonville, Florida, 32224, or visit our website at www.sbdc.unf.edu. Welcome back to Speaking of Business. Joining me on the second half of our show are Joanne Kazmierski with JAXPORT and Larry Bernaski with Enterprise Florida. So welcome.
Thank you for having us, Nancy.
And we're going to talk exports.
Good thing.
Yes, because we need to be making money out of our world partners, and so exporting is a good way to go. So, Larry, I'm going to start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do for Enterprise Florida?
Sure, Nancy. I work as the Regional Manager of International Business Development for Enterprise Florida. Those in your audience who might not be familiar with Enterprise Florida, I might serve them to know that Enterprise Florida is the state of Florida's official economic development office. My office is based here in Jacksonville, and I have two primary responsibilities. The first is to act as our organization's liaison with the economic development organizations in Northeast Florida. And secondly, and most importantly, I assist Florida businesses with their export development activities.
Excellent. Joanne, tell us about what you do at JAXPORT.
Well, Nancy, besides working very closely with Larry in Enterprise Florida, I work in the community and I work very close with small businesses. I work with education and students, and I also work with environmental partners to be sure that the port grows green. But really, one of the key areas that we're focusing in now is helping small businesses learn how to trade.
Well, and I think that's really important because we're such a global marketplace that if you've got a product and even a service that you can expand your market by going international, why not?
Right.
Okay. So, Larry, tell us a little bit about the whole exporting thing and how important it is to Florida, and maybe share some sort of statistical information about exporting in general.
Well, exporting in general, Enterprise Florida is very concerned about creating jobs, high-paying, high-quality jobs in the state of Florida. And there are significant research done by the SBA, for instance, that identifies a direct correlation between job creation and exporting. Here in Florida, for instance, we know that there are over 43,000 companies involved in exporting. Those 43,000 companies employ about 1.2 million people. We also know that about 67% of Florida's exporters are what we call small to medium-sized enterprises. Further to that, we understand that exporters grow 15% faster, they pay 15% higher wages, and they're 15% more profitable. And so at Enterprise Florida, we realize that exporting is very much something that will bring our economy into the future and perhaps assist us in getting out of the economic doldrums we're experiencing right now.
And I would imagine that has a big impact on JAXPORT, because something's got to go in and out of JAXPORT.
It certainly, and you know, JAXPORT is very important about products, moving products in and out of different countries from the world. And you know, I was listening to Larry right now, and I'm thinking, I should be exporting now. Those statistics are really amazing, and that's one reason why we do what we do. And JAXPORT is a huge supporter of exports, because obviously we do have the ships coming in, and especially the ones from China right now. I mean, China, the ships are going back in some cases empty in some of the containers, so there's a lot of opportunity to fill those with products. And so by working very closely with Enterprise and the Enterprise Florida and the U.S. Department of Commerce, it just makes sense in helping these businesses do what they can do best.
Okay, and isn't there an emphasis out of Washington to expand exports? I'll ask that as a general question to both of you.
Exactly. Right now, the Obama administration has the export initiative. The goal is to double exports within a 5-year period. Some of the pillars of that policy would be to, first off, identify export-ready companies here in the United States, to educate them and train them on the export processes. A third pillar would be to introduce them to foreign buyers overseas. And last but not least, it would be to assist businesses with the export financing. In my line of work, you'll find that structuring the deal properly to afford your buyers overseas credit or financing options really makes the deal happen. And so President Obama's policy is certainly based on sound business wisdom.
Oh, that's good. Now let's talk about the International Trade Certificate Program that's coming up. Joanne, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Certainly. This is, we're probably on our about third or fourth full year of doing this program, and it's in partnership. UNF SBDC owns the program, and we work in partnership with Enterprise Florida, U.S. Department of Commerce, JAXPORT, and other entities in the city. We also have a lot of businesses that come in who are doing exporting, who come in and share their best practices. The class begins January 24th, I think is the first class. I'm looking on the little sheet over here. Actually, January 20th through February 24th, and it's every Thursday for 4 hours in the evening. And basically, it's a great opportunity for small businesses to at least get introduced to what it is that they need to do and at least learn about exporting. What we want to do is build the confidence to ask the right questions to export. We know that 4 hours a week times 6 weeks, 24 hours of training isn't going to make somebody an expert in exporters. That's why we have the Larrys of the world, and we also have a Jorge Arce representing the U.S. Department of Commerce, who are experts supporting our local businesses. But what it does is it really allows the businesses to learn where to go for the resources, who to ask, and really get the right support to help them export.
Well, and I think to me, sometimes that's the most important thing that you can do is you're not an expert at this, but these people are the experts. So if you need help with this, you go here, with this, you go here, etc. So now I want to talk a little bit about this certificate program, because I know there have been some folks who've gone through the program who have become very successful at exporting. So it's a 6-week program,
right?
4 hours once a week. Is there a fee for it?
Yes, there is a fee, and I'm not sure. It's under $300, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I'm not quoting the wrong price on there.
Last year, I think it was $295.
Yeah, so it's extremely reasonable. If you just look at the cost of just under $300 to really learn how to increase your business abroad, it is a very, very low cost.
It's a very small investment for a big, huge return, potentially huge return.
Definitely.
How does somebody register for the class?
They can go to Kathy Hagan, who is running the program through the UNSSBDC, and her email address is chagan@unf.edu. And it's at unf.edu, and actually just email her, and she will get them connected to the proper application and how to collect the money and everything else. I do want to say one thing, though. Just a couple years ago, I know when I started at the port about 5-7 years ago, we didn't have programs like this in the city, and you were speaking to those who have really come and taken the course and have prospered. We always had a need where small businesses were wanting to know how to trade, how to do it, and we really didn't have the resources to offer them in the way of training. So all of the entities that we have mentioned, we really spent a long time in developing this course, bringing in the right subject matter experts to really help those, and we have had several companies who have really just prospered tremendously and really have had a high rate of growth with their industry. And maybe, I know it's your job to kind of turn it over, but Larry can probably speak to one or two of those.
I was just going to ask Larry. Here, I guess a question that I have is, you have people who are just getting started, and I'll get calls sometimes, I want to export blue jeans to wherever, because my family is there and I'm here. What's your experience been with the startup that is specifically starting to export a product versus an established business that's been retailing their product here in the U.S. and now wants to find a market outside the U.S.? Do you approach it differently, or?
At Enterprise Florida, one of the first things we'll do with a business is conduct what we call an export readiness assessment. And regardless of whether the company has exported before or is new to exporting, this assessment will assist in identifying strengths and weaknesses as they approach foreign markets. And so from the beginning, the approach is very similar. We want to make sure that the company is prepared to enter into their first market or their 10th market, and we provide them with the resources to take a look at how they might effectively do that. We also find that some companies who have been involved in international trade and are looking to expand in markets, to some degree, they have a skill set that first-time exporters don't have, and they also have spent some time developing a marketing strategy, which assists greatly, and that's part of what Enterprise Florida and the Department of Commerce, that's part of what we do. We assist companies in identifying that strategy, identifying those markets with potential overseas, prioritizing those markets, There's no one company that can expect to approach 15 or 20 or 30 foreign markets at one time. And so we look to prioritize those markets so they have a more reasonable chance of success as they go after those markets. Also, with a seasoned exporter, we'll often find that they're looking to go after a bigger market. In my line of work, when I work with a first-time exporter, I remind them that even a small piece of a small pie is worth something. And so a lot of companies like to think that they want to go after China or Germany right off the bat. We encourage them to take a look at some of the smaller markets, realizing that if they're going to make mistakes, they make mistakes in the smaller markets. They kind of get themselves primed for the larger markets, whereas the larger companies, the more seasoned exporters, might be looking for the Germanys and the Chinas of the world.
Well, and you know, if you start small, well, everybody starts small. I mean, let's face it, you know, Microsoft didn't start with 500,000 employees. So every business starts off small. And I think what you're saying is very important, because you don't want to get this big splashy thing going and you can't fulfill the obligation, or you're misconnecting on communication or whatever. So to get your feet wet in a smaller market and really learn that market, I think makes a whole lot of sense.
And you also find that the economic development organizations that assist exporters, we have a vested interest in your success.
Sure.
We would rather do all the homework up front and get you prepared for the best market. You know, in sports they make the analogy that it's about matching up well with another team. The same thing is in exporting. We try to find ways to match up the size of the company with the appropriate partner overseas, and the size of the company with the appropriate market overseas. And so it's very much a lot of work is done in advance of that first export transaction.
Well, and that has to make the business owner feel much more secure about doing this, because I think that's the big fear. The big fear is if I start selling in another country, especially if I don't speak the language, and how am I going to get paid? And you know, whereas the resources that are coming together for this certificate program, whether it's Enterprise Florida, whether it's Department of Commerce, whether it's JAXPORT, whether it's SBDC, and whoever the other players are there to kind of hold your hand and make sure that everything's working and you're connecting with the right people and all of that stuff. I mean, it's just, I just think it's a wonderful thing that all of you guys have come together to develop this program to help the business owner.
Oftentimes the difference between a successful exporter and an unsuccessful exporter is found in the intangibles. Virtually any company can learn the hows and whys and the processes of exporting, but we find that companies that are adaptable, companies that have a commitment, companies that have a consensus to treat exporting as their top priority, those are the intangibles that we can't teach a company. They have to be willing to adjust to foreign markets and be willing to understand that business done outside the United States could be substantially different than what how it's done here in the U.S. And so it's those intangibles that really differentiate the good exporters from the not so good exporters.
Now, Joanne, we didn't talk about what you do at JAXPORT very much. Do you want to kind of share with our audience a little bit more about what you do? I mean, Larry's given us a great insight into his role.
Well, the focus of my role at JAXPORT, I'm the manager of community outreach and environmental advocacy, and really in the realm of us talking about business, we focus on teaching businesses how to get business with the port locally through our procurement processes, and basically that's anything that we do from mowing lawns to buying office goods, if you will. And so therefore there's a lot of local opportunities, but really this opportunity that we have offered through the UNFSBDC in its partners with exporting is really where the future is, because that's where the opportunity lies. As Larry speaks, and everything he's talked about, I have seen him in action with these businesses in this classroom and even outside of the classroom. So none of this is just talk. It is real life happening here in Jacksonville. So my role is to meet somebody in the community in any networking fashion. It's whether it's events where we speak, or if I'm out just participating and shaking hands, to really get people connected so that they can get the right information to help them grow. So small business is critical. We know that 95% of businesses, I think is the number somewhere in there, of Florida's businesses are small businesses. So I spend a good amount of time. I want to give credit to my colleague Yetunde Oyewale as well. She and I work very closely in the community with the small businesses, and I don't want to take complete credit. We're a great team. So, so really the idea is I'm the connector. Just like Larry is the connector to people to the world, I'm the connector to people like Larry and others in the community that can help people grow and prosper.
Excellent. Now, Larry, most of us think of exporting, we think products, but services certainly can be exported. Is that, am I right on that?
Of course.
Oh, yes.
In the state of Florida, we realize that over 30% of our state's exports are services.
Okay.
Engineering services, management consulting services, logistics services actually constitutes an export. And
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of people, there are the myths about exporting. A lot of people, for instance, think they have to be a manufacturer. At Enterprise Florida, for instance, we realize that over 51% of what Florida exports isn't manufactured in the state. A lot of companies think they have to have a high-tech product, when the truth is that Florida is actually exporting sand to the Caribbean and ice makers to Greenland.
Oh, isn't that funny?
And so you wouldn't think of those as
No, you
high-tech
don't.
products, and you wouldn't think of Florida as being a place to export sand, but we do. A lot of companies think they have to be large multinational companies. There are several companies around the county that are 1, 2, 5-person companies. There's one company I'm working with, 2 people in the whole company. Most of their exports are to China. And so,
Really? And what are they exporting? Just 2 people?
Manufactured springs.
Okay.
One of their shipments could be valued at about $20,000 or $30,000, and it could fit in an envelope.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I bet you just love your job.
It's fascinating to meet with all the different companies and find out what's going on. Nancy, Joanne mentioned, networking is what we're really about. I think the greatest asset I bring to the community is knowing who's doing what and what the resources are to assist them to go further. And it's very much a team effort across the board.
And Larry, tell them how much it cost to meet with you.
High-priced, huh?
High-priced. We talked about remuneration earlier. Enterprise Florida is funded through the state of Florida, and all of our services are for free, just like they are with the U.S. Department of Commerce. And we understand that there's a great value in getting companies more involved in international trade, and it's really a benefit to our economy to see that that happens.
Can you give us an example maybe of a company that you worked with that was a smaller company and you know, not a manufacturer, and kind of what happened?
One of the companies I'd like to speak about is one of our graduates from the Export Certification Program, a company called Heavy Equipment Resources of Florida. I think perhaps they've been on the show before. We kind of look at them as the poster child. I remember watching the family members of that company sitting in the back row at the training in their blue jeans and baseball caps and T-shirts. And we're all kind of looking at each other wondering, what are they doing here? What could they possibly expect to be doing overseas? And lo and behold, they are now a global exporter, exporting used construction equipment around the world.
Excellent. And I'm sorry, but we're out of time. So thank you very much for being here. You in the audience, if you want to expert, visit our website at www.sbdc.unf.edu and join us next time when we'll be speaking of business. Bye now.